Tuko na Wilfred Menjoli, Chairman CFA Mugogodo Forest. Hii session ni mambo ya land restoration and management. Si tumeongelea mambo ya land. Tumesema nini kuhusu land? Land yetu imefanya nini? Degraded. Imefanya nini tena? Imefanya nini? Si tumetoka kuongea mambo ya land restoration. Na sasa hapo ndio tuko sahi. How do we achieve our community kama imekuwa degraded? We need to talk about land degradation and management. Na sahi tunataka kuongelea techniques. What are available techniques? Alafu turudishe to rehabilitate land yenye already tume degrade, si ndio? Kwetu kuna miti inaitwa Juliflora. Si tulisema pia miti inamaliza invasive species. Si pia inamaliza land. Wangapi wameona forest office? Kila mahali. Hata Baringo wakafungua wakapatiana bill ya kumaliza, lakini sasa inamaliza mpaka indigenous trees. So how do we reverse that bill? Na pia kuna lands yenye iko degraded na soil erosion. Huko kwenu kuna soil erosion? Sana, si ndio? Mpaka imechukua shamba yote. Mnafanya nini kama jamii kurudisha hiyo land back? What are you doing? We plant trees. Kina nani mpanda miti round this year? Thank you. Na walisema ati pastors wapande miti, wanakula miti. Technique nyingine tunaweza rehabilitate land ni nini? Mshasikia about agroecology. Nana interact na agroecology techniques, agroecology principles. Those are some of the techniques tunataka tuongelelea hapa. Na ukiona kwa hii picha, wacha tufanye practical. Hii picha mnaona nini hapa? Mnaona shimo inakaa aje? Nani anajua? Ama ni community gani walichimba? Please shout from the back. Half moons. Thank you. Hii ni half moons. These are some of the techniques. Hii na old maji. Na pia ina take care of the soil. Si ndio? Technique nyingine yenye mnajua ni gani? Mshasikia about swales? Swales. Kuzuia mmomonyoko wa udongo. Nani anakumbuka Moi? Na kuzuia mmomonyoko wa udongo ni hizi techniques nataka tuongelee saa hii. Swales, unachimba shamba yako ikiwa inaenda kama snake. Inaitwa swales kwa English. Na hiyo maji sasa zile kuna mvua mingi ina hold hiyo maji. Alafu ina spread inaingia kwa soil. Kama ungekuwa na mpanda nyasi hapo, utakuwa umezuia mmomonyoko ya udongo. So tutazuia ile deep gullies yenye inamaliza mashamba zetu huko mashinani, si ndio? What other techniques apart from planting trees? Ecosystem. Taking care of ecosystem. Wangapi bado wanachoma makaa wakitumalizia bees? Si tunachoma makaa. Hata wamama siku hizi kwa sababu ya kutafuta unga. Hata sisi tuna contribute to degrading the environment, si ndio? Technique nyingine yenye tunafaa kufanya, tunafaa kuacha kukata makande tusimalize bees. Imagine asali saa hii ni 1000 na kg. Na ukiprotect hizo bees, itashuka bei ama itapanda bei? Itapanda bei. Those are ecosystem needs yenye tunafaa kuongelelea saa hii. Na nataka kuuliza maswali kidogo tu, but very general. Kwanza nitatuma the first question. Itaenda kwa Tom Patunoi. Atuambie tu some of the restoration techniques ambaye nyinyi kama community mnafanya, na what are the challenges and what to improve on, na nini tunataka kufanya ndio tuone tuna conserve our soils and our land, si ndio? You can proceed. We need to be assisted, Tusipozeda sign mingi.
Asante sana moderator, kama vile mlisikia ni naitwa Tom Patunoi. Mimi ni chairman wa Musul Community Land, ambaye Musul Community Land iko Laikipia County. Sisi kama jamii ya kiasilia, kiwemo maneno ya tabia nchi imekuwa kafu au land imekuwa kafu. Sasa ile kitu ambayo tunafanya kurudisha ardhi yetu venye ilikuwa hapa awali ni kupigana na zile changamoto ambayo ziko kama hizo Bearland, kama hizo Gales, kuna pia zile mimea ambayo zimetokana baada ya ardhi kukaa kafu kama upundia, ponea, mingi ambayo ziko katika area yetu. So zile vitu ambayo tunafanya kupigana na zile changamoto ya ardhi ni kufanya zile circular band ambayo mnaona katika hiyo banda iko hapo, na pia tunafanya maneno ya kung'oa zile mimea ambayo zimetokana na kukaa kafu kama upunja, kwa sababu ukiangalia pale Laikipia kuna upunja ambayo mimea ambayo imemea baada ya area kukua kafu. Na zile changamoto ambayo tunapata ni kwamba hizo mimea siku na zinakuwa kwa haraka, lakini hata ikiwa hivyo bado tunapambana tu kutoa au kupambana naye kama jamii kupitia yale ya mashirika ambayo sio ya serikali kama Impact na wale wengine, tumeweza restore ardhi yetu, kwa sababu ukiangalia mashirika kama Impact ya kwamba imesaidia jamii kuinua uchumi, kusaidia sisi kupata capacity building ya kujua kwamba kutengeneza hizo band ambayo tunaita half moon. Pia inasaidia pia jamii kupata capacity kwa sababu wanapatia pesa direct. So pia jamii wamepata kuwa na wameweza kumanage zile ardhi yao na kutumia zile resources ambazo ziko kuhakikisha ya kwamba wamerudisha ardhi kama vile ilikuwa. Na yale ambayo tunafanya ni kufanya hizo land na kwamba tunasuia hiyo mmonyoko wa udongo na pia tunapanda nyasi. So kiona hivyo at least area inarudi venye ilikuwa hapo awali.
Asante sana. My other question goes to Jandesa Doyo. I'll just ask, because you are a researcher, what are the best restoration initiatives that our pastoralist communities can utilize right now as we think of bringing back our degraded lands? Thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you very much. Really, I'm very happy to participate such kind of really important conference. Just like a newborn baby to attend in this conference. And directly, when I go to the question, before I go to the question, I have to say something about the rangelands. The rangeland is for pastoralists. Yeah, rangeland. When we're talking about, I can speak actually without this technology. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can use without. Then my voice is very.
Proceed. Yeah.
Actually, when you're talking about the rangeland is just like not just like one hand of me. It's just like the head of the pastoralist. If your head is cut, can you live? No. So if maybe I miss one hand of me, I can live with my eye, I can live with my ear, I can live with my head, my leg, I can live. But if you are cut my head, no one can live. If anyone can live without head. So the pastoralist, the rangeland is just like head of you for the pastoral community. Then it is a crucial thing. And then when you go to maybe the rangeland issue, some people are, the rangeland is just like their unproductive land, which is wrong. Maybe some people. And then the rangeland is a natural industry. which is a natural industrial company that produce many things, that produce plant, biodiversity, even a biotic and the biotic. They produce the oil. They produce livestock. They produce you yourself. They produce plant. They produce minerals. They produce water. They produce wildlife. And they produce the tourism and economy. It's just like a business company. So we have to understand like that, the rangeland. And then when you go to the rangeland issue, rangeland management, is two things that can manage rangeland. And the traditional indigenous range ecology analogy that can manage by the community. And also there is a conventional, just like a science, there are also the rangeland management, also the rangeland restoration techniques that we are using both. When you come to rangeland, the rangeland management and restoration by community, mobility is the one of the rangeland management. It's a crucial thing, which can even in the morning some say the purpose of the mobility is searching and water and pasture. It's not only that is not only the purpose, enough purpose for the mobility. It's also for reproductive. It's reproductive. The purpose of the mobility also one of the reproductive of the rangeland, even as well as livestock. And also when you come to also the rangeland, there are people dividing rangeland in different things, wet season grazing and dry season grazing, and also conserve areas that can use during the hard time. And the mobility is the one of pasture management also itself, and also rangeland management, and also water management itself. So, and also for resting, the community can rest the degraded area. And also the other community indigenous rangeland management also for invasive, which call encroachment, bush encroachment, people can use to fire it, but not prescribed fire, which cannot easily manage it by technical and in different aspects, but they are managed for different things, for refreshment, for the grass, for maybe control the pesticides, and also control the ticks, and also control the bush. This is also the one of managing the indigenous rangeland management for restoring the rangeland. And also another thing is also, we call it in another techniques of the modern one, and also the same, actually, but the how to control the techniques, maybe the techniques is different. For example, rotational grazing, maybe just like as a community that they are using seasonal and the dry season and wet season grazing, that is also one of as the rotational grazing for rangeland management as well. And also for community itself also just like as for the color system, which is for the pasture to manage it. And also the same thing is true for also the modern one or science that can protecting the degraded rangeland to become recover. And also maybe one of that rangeland. Also there are another thing for the technical of bush management. Also there is a different technique that we can control the bush by different cutting in different edge. But I can't currently explain about each of the techniques that we can control the bush, but there is a difference. And also there is reseeding techniques, the resting, reseeding, and also soil and water conservation, just like the shown that can be different using the soil banding system, like half-moon, tracing, and check dam. There is a different things that we can conserve the soil for degraded rangeland, for the moisture capacity increasing, for rangeland management. And also when you come to reseeding is for rangeland is the last resort. It's the last resort. Because if you see different things, but it is a last resort for rangeland management. But for the issue of the bush is currently increasing just like even the one of the factor that shrinking the rangeland and also degrading the rangeland is the one related to the crops. No, that is also different techniques from science. If you are doing the controlling the range, the bush, but it is increasing debo. It's recopizing. But for indigenous rangeland management through prescribed fire to manage the bush, but that one is more sustainable than that. But we have to think out of the box from the science side, because we have to follow within the amalgamating the indigenous ecology, neology to bush management, and also the science side. And then we have to amalgamate in that way. And and when it comes to, and also we have to think always, okay, for general challenge for rangeland management, when you come to say that, one of the policy and the land use is the one of the biggest challenge. The land use policy is the big challenge for rangeland management, even as restoration. And also the other things is also the seed. Maybe when you come to restoration, the seed itself is maybe can we get enough seed for restoring the rangeland? All we using maybe a native seed or grass or exotic one, which is maybe not more adapted, even if just like semi-perennial, which can maybe not sustain for long. Maybe this one of also. And also one is also the resource, economy, cultural aspect, and climate variability is the one of the challenge. And also commitment, which is a political commitment, is the one of also the challenge of the rangeland management. Is also one of the conflict area, also the way to manage the rangeland. When I go to opportunity, can I go to tax? Second round? Okay. Actually, maybe we have a solution for that. We have to use the land use system as a land use policy strategy for rangeland management, which is a grazing management. We have to take a balance of stock rate. But the population also the one of the challenge. Not only the policy, not only the climate risk, which is related to it, and other many climate risk, it's also one of the challenge. So we have to solve this one. The policy also, it must be effective and appropriate policy for grazing management. And then developing different things like community ranch, reserve ranch, which community ranch for during dry season, community ranch during the wet season, even reserve community ranch, which can use during the hard time. This it must be balanced. And then the other thing is also for my conclusion, I have to say I have to fight for our right and protect our pastoral and enhancing the livelihood of sustainable to reduce the risk. And also we have to fight collectively, not separately, for the pastoral community. And also finally we have to fight for voiceless people, which is the pastoralist. We have to come together here. We have to voice for the one who left home. Then we have to voice for them to transform the pastoral community. Transform from all this risk, including climate risk and climate association risk, like the policy, land use, conflict, and these different things, aspect. And then we have to fight for elders, children, women, and youth, and disabled pastoral community. Also, we have to fight for the base body of the pastoral community. Even currently, the pastoralist, when you are burying, we are dying, because that all our land is grabbing by the other investment and crops. So even if now a place to bear now. There is a pastoral that means such kind of things. Then even you can fight for the bear, for the dead body even, not for living only. For climate risk issue and any climate associated risk issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's a research perspective. It is powerful. My last question I still have 2 questions to my sister Terry. How do women and girls contribute to rangeland restoration in your perspective? How do indigenous women and girls participate in restoration in your community?
Thank you very much, Madam. Habari yenyu wa Kenya. I'm so glad to be in front of you here. And please, if you see me so anxious, it is actually my first time to stand or talk in front of all these eyes. So if I sound so anxious, please excuse me. Thank you. I'm Terry Nailo. I'm from South Sudan. And the question you asked, how do girls and women help in the restoration of rangelands in our community? Let's say in South Sudan, specifically, most of us, we depend on other bodies for such activities. For example, we depend mostly on NGOs. We have NGOs like Root of Generations. They involve ladies and girls. In which way? They form groups, they form women groups, then they give them knowledge on rangeland restorations. They teach them on the techniques. What techniques can they use to restore these wasted lands? We have a lot of wasted lands in our community, and most of them are just idle. So what do women do? NGOs like ROG, they provide maybe like seedlings. Then they give those women groups to head like the planting of those seedlings. And some of them as well, what can I say? Okay, like they give them the seedlings to be planted in different areas. Okay, they can also involve men, but men just do the supervision. But the most work is done by the women. They call it women empowerment in our regions. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hearty clap for my sister from South Sudan. Our last question to our chairman. What is the future from Gogodo forests, looking at the interests by even the government now cutting down trees and also indigenous trees? What is the future for these forests?
Thank you. My name is Wilfred Mejole. I am a herder by profession. I know herding is very much underrated. And when you are hard to be a herder, then people think you are a very useless person. So I'm a professional herder who take care of livestock kwa porini na kwa maboma. So the future of our forest really rely on participatory management approaches. Mukokodo Forest was one of the forests which the community participation in managing forests was piloted in this country back to 2004. And that's proof that community can be able to manage forest. And that's why Community Forest Association were born in this republic. And therefore, we look at the center, the community at the center of management of any natural resource. Because that resource is their life, is their livelihood, and they have got a lot of indigenous knowledge which is not yet documented in managing such a resource. So the future of Magogodo Forest lie on the hands of the local community in that particular setup. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we conclude, now we have heard that rangeland or land management is possible, don't we? Do you have questions for my participants? and my panelists. Any comments?
Can I just add something? You know, I'm a rangeland by profession.
Okay.
So when we say rangeland has got 4 types of ecologies. One is the grassland, ambayo kwa Kiswahili wanaita nyika. The other is shrubland, ambayo ni vichaka. The other one is woodland, ambayo ni misitu. And the last 2 is the desert, whether they call all the hot deserts. And the last one is wetland. And such ecologies are really getting a lot of challenges. And one is an understanding of the government of what degradation means. Because other people means degradation means just the loss of the cover. But in a rangeland setup, they think that livestock is the cause of degradation, which is not. The livestock number is not the cause of rangeland degradation. Rangeland degradation is the amount of time animals spend in a particular setup. Even one donkey can be able to cause erosion, and that has no numbers. If you tie a donkey around a tree or put it in 1 acre for 3 months, it will cause degradation. So does it apply to numbers? So I think the government need to understand that livestock is a tool of managing rangelands. And a tool is just like a knife. You can chop carrots, you can peel potatoes, and if you use it in a wrong way, it can kill you. So the same case applies to livestock. If you use it in the right way, it can destroy nature, it can destroy your future. But if you use it in the right way, that is plant grazing or whatever they call it, rotational grazing, it can improve rangeland health and enhance production or productivity in the long run. Thank you.
What a good conclusion, Chair. Happy my coffee bar. At least we have experts. If you want to understand more about rangeland management, we have a question there. I will take only 2. Take a mic, please.
Thanks so much for your presentation. I just wanted to react to the question. I read over the papers that somebody was advocating that Mukokodo forest was harboring people who are stealing animals or thieves or, you know, it can be taken off, or what's your reaction on this?
Okay, thank you. Mukokodo forest is at the border of Laikipia County and Isiolo and Samburu. And as you know, the pastoralists in those lowlands are strongly armed. And those pastoralists were strongly hit during the 2021-2022 calamity, which almost swept 90% of their livestock. Then they become poor. And there's no education infrastructure. There's not enough education infrastructure in those areas. So what is the only source of making a living is to rob someone's cows. So that's why Mukokodo forest is seen in a very negative perspective. But in other words, Mukokodo is home to us. It is a very good place to go. There's peace. It's only that people are using that forest just to come and rob, come and raid, and perhaps disappear into, and there's no road infrastructure, there's no network in that particular area. So I think that is why people call it a safe haven for raiders or cattle rustlers. But in other words, it is home to many of Laikipian people.
Hello, my name is Steven. Why did they put to Mukokodo?
I think can I answer that? You know, Laikipia have suffered a lot of colonial atrocities where the Maasai lost almost 80% of their ancestral land. And that's the result why we are pushing into these sesefly areas like Mukokodo forest and part of Laikipia North. So we lost the land due to these colonial atrocities. Yeah. What was the other question? Any metrics?
Yes.
To support that?
Of that forest?
I think carbon credit in Kenya is much. No, I'm just talking in the context of Kenya, where carbon trading is based on land ownership. So the forest is a public resource, so the community has no right to trade in carbon in that particular forest when it has public forest status. Unless the forest turns into a community forest, then we can be able to research and trade in carbon. So we still not have the right to trade in carbon within a form of public forest.
It's in the Mukuru forest. Are they in a forest or in their own land?
We live inside and outside the forest since time colonial, or even before colonial time.
This is very strange question. Are the Maasais in Nkokordo, are they in the forest or in their own land?
Yeah, I'm saying that we live inside and outside the forest since even before the colonial time, the colonial license or whatever they call it came to Kenya. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Now you're putting us in a tough situation. Carbon. Are those questions for carbon related? Please, we are on restoration and land management. So we have another session on investment. Please give a mic to that gentleman in the blue.
Thank you so much. So my name is Jacob Lekaitogo from the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists Youth Working Group. So, I have two questions to my brother from Ogogodo Forest. You're talking about, there are two aspects you've talked about, the continuous grazing system and the holistic grazing management, I think so, what they call. And people have scrutinized both of them. Others say continuous grazing is causing land degradation. And others are saying holistic management, if that's the case, is the one that is sustainable. And there's also a perspective of the pastoralist communities that the continuous is the one that they may need because of mobility. And in research, maybe my brother from the other far end can tell us if that is the case, that the grazing is based on, like, the degradation is based on land management or like a holistic management. So which of the two perspectives do you think is the one that is well put for rangeland management? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your two questions. There's what we call rotational grazing. Rotational grazing goes along with what we call grazing calendar. You can develop your grazing plan and say, this, I will be here January, I will be here February, and I'll be here on October. Those are theories, because where will you be where you should be in November if the rains were not there? So plant grazing is the way to go. And if you look even the pastoral mobility, it was part of a plant grazing. You move according to following the rain patterns, not according to the calendar. So plant grazing is when you sit and plan what you have, what already is in your hand, not just what you think it will be. So you need to understand plant grazing is when you follow rain patterns, when you know what is there in your land, right? So mobility was part of the plant grazing.
You want to add something?
I don't know whether we have answered your question satisfactorily.
Your question, please.
Yes, thank you. As we have heard that women and girls play a central point in issues regarding the restoration. Are you getting me?
No,
Please,
please.
you are
speak
addressing
up.
the question to
To me.
Terry.
I still have energy to answer more questions. I can talk the whole night, the whole day.
I'm just asking a question regarding the issues of women and restoration factors. So sometimes you find that there are being engaged in issues pertaining the restoration factors. So what strategies will bring pastoral women and girls into rangelands restorations, since many of us or many of the women economic value in that factor?
Did you capture the question? Fancy, hold the mic well.
An old mzee, you need to speak up a little bit. We are sorry for that, but you can see.
Oh, the mic.
Okay.
About the issues of women on issues regarding the restoration. So my question was, what strategies will bring both the young girls and women, first role, into rangeland restoration, since many feel excluded or see no economic value in participating?
I think in a forest context is that we look things in a holistic approach, where we see everybody is a key player, including women and girls. And when we engage the national government to develop forest participatory management plan, what we call the PFMP, and the management agreement, women do really participate. And some of the rights that were granted by the government, some are led by women, like the firewood collection, water and grazing sometimes, tree planting. So they fully participate in conservation, given that women play a very important role in conservation and even in household management.
Kindly allow us to conclude this meeting and have more discussion over coffee. And to impact, please, you see land has issues. We need more discussion on land use and land management. You can see from the questions and discussion being asked here. We'll have to ask for more time, maybe tomorrow, to talk about land management, because it's emerging. That is an aspect that all of us want to understand. Kindly clap for my panelists as they go sit. Yes, we are done. Thank you so much for these hard questions and responding them well. Asante.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. They've done great. In fact, they always say learning never ends. Watu tunajifunza mambo bwana. Sometimes you may think we know until when you hear from the experts and you are like, we never look at it this way, right? So, wanasema kujifunza ni kama tu kava, hakuna siku inakwisha. Wewe ukipata nafasi, sit down and listen. And you'll always be amazed how much information is already available through our experts. So thank you. And thank you, Monica Yator, for great facilitation. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are trying to catch up with our time. And I think we are doing very well so far. So wacha niwapatie hiyo motivation kidogo. Now, we're going to have our other session, ambayo itakuwa ni session yetu ya mwisho wa siku. Kwa hivyo nawaambia kwamba tayari tunafanya vizuri, karibu tutabakiza tupate ya kumalizia after this session. And this will be about peace and the role of various peace actors in advancing peace in our pastoralist and rangeland communities, and the lives that we always have, and how best we are able to coexist with people and nature. And this particular session will be facilitated by none other but Dr. Hussein Tadicha from CRDD, but also a member of Paran. So where is our good moderator? Ndio huyu anakuja, Bwana Hussein Tadicha from CRDD and member of Paran Alliance. Tumpigie makofi. So kuna kibarua kizuri cha kuweza kutufanyisha hii session. I want to trust that you have the list of the panelists.
Liban has my list.
Okay, let me
yes, please.
You can use mine, or I can
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. Okay. Thank you so much, moderator. As you've been told, my name is Hussein Tadicha from Center for Research and Development in Drylands. We are a non-governmental research-oriented organization based in northern Kenya, specifically in Marsabit, and I'm so glad to participate in this forum. In this session, which is about peace and role of different actors, I would like the following people to come upstage to be with me here. Emma Ekai. I'm sure she's in the room. She was here. Yes, Emma, please give her a round of applause as she comes. She's from Isiolo Gender Watch. Monida Bita from South Sudan. Welcome, Moni. Karibu. Mr. Mesele Seyom, who is director for GAYO, which is a non-governmental organization based in southern Ethiopia. And finally, Bernard Lolasho, who is also a youth representative and a member of PARAN. Let's have this panel here. Well, I think when we talk matters peace, I'd like to say that the drylands where we come from, or generally the pastoralist areas, when we talk about our land, or when people talk about our land, they always talk about from the lack of, the negative aspects of things is what has been used to define us. When we talk about drylands, it's an area that has limited water, high poverty levels, has, and has what? Conflict. And that is what we always, people see. And we want to have a conversation here that will highlight how things are in our different regions. And as you know, there has been a lot of narratives fueled by misconceptions around these lands. While we talk about conflict, we know that conflict is something that occurs occasionally within different societies. And it should not be something that defines pastoralists as people. Actually, when people talk about pastoralism, a lot of people go towards, these people are not civilized, they are warlike, they are savage, and culture. They are people who need to change. And that is one thing that stick in always people's minds and also influence policies that affect our people. But we have communities who have very strong indigenous organizations that have managed, relations, that have negotiated access to resources across landscapes. And that is what has maintained pastoralism, and that is why we have it up to date. And some of the issues actually that brings about conflict are not what defines pastoralism, but actually what external influences has placed on pastoralists themselves. So today then we will have our panel who are from different countries. So we have Kenya, South Sudan, and again Kenya, and then Ethiopia. I would like us to start by giving just a round of what is the status of peace in our respective areas where we come from. What is the trend like? How are things changing when it comes to matters peace? And highlight what are some of the issues that either enhance, peaceful coexistence or hinders our communities' peaceful coexistence. I hope the question is clear. And because I have Marcele, who is an elder seated close to me, I would like to start with you. You can take the mic and take 2 to 3 minutes to just highlight that.
Thank you, Doctor. My name is Marcele Siyum. I'm working as Executive Director for GAYO Pastoral Development Initiative. though I was born and raised in southern Ethiopia in Borana area, currently I'm residing in Addis Ababa, leading the organization from there. Peace is an important, crucial element in pastoralist way of life for me. We need, yes, rangeland, we need water, we need our land also to live. Similarly, we need also peace in our area. In our neighbors also we need peace. For us also we need peace. I can see three actors in peace building in a community. The first actor is a state actor. The second one is our indigenous leaders, who are crucial for me in building peace within the community and also with neighboring communities, and also CSO. CSOs can help build peace between communities plus within communities. Mostly we tend to, as CSO leader, we tend to forget the peace component when we design projects. Mostly we focus on the humanitarian or the development part. Now, I would like this panel also to consider the peace part. We can build water sources, we can build health facilities, we can build schools, but if peace is not included in it, it can be destroyed overnight. So let's also look at the peace component within our community and also with the neighboring communities. I think let me stop here and pass it.
Maybe before you pass it, a little bit on status of how things are among pastoralists in Ethiopia, peace-wise.
Peace in southern Ethiopia, within Ethiopia, it is improving. I can say it is better. Peace with the neighboring countries is also good. Why? Because we don't share only land and water. We share also blood among the pastoralist communities. The Boran community in southern Ethiopia and northern Kenya are the same people. We have the same culture, the same tradition, and we can talk. We can discuss and settle differences if it is there. It is the same with the Somalis. The Somalis in Ethiopia, the Somalis in Kenya are the same communities, even the Somalis in Somalia also. The same thing is true also with South Sudan. The Nuer communities in Ethiopia, in Gambela region, and the Nuer communities in southern region are the same people. We are intermarried, we have relatives on the other border, so we can easily sit and discuss and settle our differences. I hope we will build also on that relationships. And I can see also many of the pastoralist communities are intermarried, and we can build on that relationship to build peace.
Thank you so much. You can pass the mic to Emma. Just on the same, Emma. Maybe you can update us on, the area that you come from, Kenya, and specifically Isiolo.
Thank you, Dr. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, my name's Emma Akai. I'm standing in for Isiolo Gender, a community-based organization operating in northern Kenya. And it's a good question, Dr. But difficult to answer because I can say it's a yes and a no at the same time. For instance, if I say a yes, he has mentioned the actors that have come up on peace building and conflict resolution in the entire India region. The same applies to Kenya. we have actors who have come up actually to resolve conflict within the communities and even across the region. And these have actually built capacities of most community members, including formation of peace committees, trainings, and etc., etc. No, I can say that things have not changed because conflict dynamics have changed. For instance, if you look at our previously indigenous conflict, it was about the theft of livestock. It was about maybe this community stealing from this community. It was about boundaries. It was about small issues that communities could come and resolve so easily. With the changing dynamics, you can find that they are coming up of commercialization of conflict, where the conflicting communities now, you have the youth from, let's say, let me use the Turkana and the Samburu community as an example. You have the youth from the Samburu community and the Turkana community. They come together, they gang, they go and steal from the Meru community. For the case of Isiolo, they go steal from the Samburu community, they go steal from the Turkana community. The other change in dynamics of conflict also is on use of technology, because you can see that most conflict these days are being fueled on social media. If you look at how the younger generations are using social media to fuel conflict, if you look at most of the social handles like Twitter, Facebook, mention them. Most conflicts that are being fueled using that social media reflect actually what happens on the ground, because you find that these youth that are using the social media have got their brothers and sisters at the community level. Whatever they speak on or whatever they write on social media is actually what happens on the ground. And another positive aspect of conflict resolution is that we've seen that these days we've come with different ways of conflict resolution. Like we've got several, though on shelves, several declarations and accords, those that have been on shelved. No implementation of the recommendation, but during the time that those declarations were made, you could find that there was compensation. Like in my region, kulikuwa na kitu inaitwa kulipa damu, and it varies. And this now again takes me where like I feel tunaumizwa kidogo kama wamama, where like you could find that if a lady is killed, analipwa, let's say ni mbuzi watano, mwanaume akilipwa analipwa pengine mbuzi 10. This again inanyanyasa wamama kiasi. And another thing is that we've got support from outside, where donors are supporting peace initiatives in the country.
Thank you so much, Emma. Asante sana. You can pass the mic to a lady from South Sudan. Definitely, South Sudan has its own dynamics and challenges. You can maybe highlight from pastoralist perspective, you know, what is the status and how are things, the trends?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moni Tabitha, and I'm from South Sudan. I work for African Women Help Organization, and I am the executive director. The status of pastoralists in South Sudan at the moment, I would say some parts of the country, like where I come from, the Western Equatorial State, it's relatively peace with the pastoralists, because before there have been a lot of conflicts between the host communities who are farmers and the pastoralists who come with their kettles and cause havoc within the community. So there have been community dialogues and community conversation between the pastoralists and also the community hosts themselves, which has brought some relative peace among the pastoralists living in Maridi, that's in Western Equatorial State, Whereas 3 months, or I should say 5 months ago, in Eastern Equatoria, there have been a lot of massacre that was caused as a result of pastoralists that came from Bor community. They came into Magui. Magui is a county in Eastern Equatoria, and there was serious murder, I should say, or I should say massacre, because houses were burnt down, and there was kind of a revenge killing from the community themselves, because their communities were killed by the cattle herders. So on the side of Eastern Equatoria still, that's the Toposa land, I think bordering Turkana, they're a bit relatively okay. Also, there's the Murule part. They do come to Toposa land to do cattle raiding, or there's one of the professors from here, he likes to say not cattle raiding, but restocking. So the Murle come to Toposa land to restock their cattle, or rather to raid, and that also causes havoc within that particular community. But otherwise, things are not bad in regards to the pastoralists in my country. I think there was another question. There was another question, right?
Yeah, I think you've handled it well, and maybe if you have more of the factors, because you've already mentioned some of the factors around this restocking or raiding for, that is one thing that
Well, I can give
but you can, yes, give it to Elasho. Elasho, tumeongea sana Kiingereza. Sijui kama ni kuchallenge uongee Kiswahili alafu utranslate kidogo. Maybe from your perspective and what you do in Laikipia area, which is the other part of Kenya, if there's something that you can add to what Emma has already said.
Yeah, asante sana. Kwa mawazo yangu nafikiria kwamba kwa muda mrefu kumekuwa na mivutano katikati ya jamii, na I think hii imesababishwa na natural resources, inamaanisha maji, nyasi, na hivi sasa tunapozungumza kuna hii mambo ya carbon, kwa hivyo pia kuna pesa ambazo zinafika katika jamii, na kwa hiyo conflict imekuwepo for the longest time. Si mara ya kwanza kwamba tunaona mivutano kati ya jamii, lakini cha muhimu ama cha msingi zaidi kinachofanya tofauti ya hapo awali na hivi sasa ni ya kwamba hapo mwanzoni tulikuwa na indigenous knowledge, kulikuwa na hekima ya wazee, kulikuwa na traditional systems ambazo jamii kwa jamii ilikuwa ikifanya ili kuweza kusuluhisha issues za mivutano. Lakini hivi sasa wakati dynamics zimebadilika, ni ya kwamba kuna hela ambayo imefika kwa jamii, inamaanisha kwamba sasa kila mtu amekuwa subdivided. So sasa pia tuko na community lands ambayo ni mzuri. Lakini changamoto na hiyo pia ni ati mimi nikiwa na community land yangu ninachunga mali yangu. Sasa mtu unasema kila mtu ajichunge, ile wazungu walikuwa wanasema every man for himself, God for us all. Lakini changamoto ni ya kwamba wakati ambapo tuangalie kwamba holistic management ya natural resources na kufikiria kwamba jinsi ambavyo tutafanya kazi kwa pamoja so that isikuwe unachunga ardhi yako peke yako bila kufikiria mwenzako. Inamaanisha uko na jukumu kibinafsi kama jamii na uko na jukumu pia kwa jamii wenzako. Na iwapo tutafanikiwa kwa hii mambo ya cross border ambayo imekuwa ya muhimu sana kwa mazungumzo ya hivi leo na kwa hii summit, ni muhimu kwamba tuzungumze kwamba tuko na jamii, tuko na jukumu kibinafsi kama nchi, na pia tuko na jukumu kama eneo as a region. So lazima tuweze kuangalia hizo perspectives pamoja tunapozungumzia mambo ya amani, na tunapofikiria kwamba tutabadilisha jinsi ambavyo tumekuwa tukifanya mambo ya kusuluhisha amani na kuleta amani kwenye jamii zetu.
Kwa Kiingereza kidogo, just to...
All right, thank you. So for those who missed what I said in Swahili, is that peace has always been elusive, and communities have for the longest time always had their own conflicts, but we have had traditional systems and indigenous knowledge systems that have helped form and shape conflict resolution. And therefore, as we think about reforming issues around conflict, or think about the dynamics that we are dealing with on a daily basis now with this new era, and with the new also generations, because there's also a generational aspect to it. Probably how we used to solve issues regarding conflict a few years back may be changing, and so we need to be cognizant of those changing dynamics when it comes to peace resolution and conflict resolution. I think we've seen also like a new generation of young people who are ambitious, and of course there's also like institutionalized crime that is already happening in communities where like probably we see and there's also the aspect of politics that has and that is associated with issues around peace. Traditionally, if you think a few years back, there was not so much politicking around. So if there was conflict between communities, you'd find probably just one community sending elders and then that issue is resolved. Nowadays, now we have to really think about all these dynamics when we think about resolving peace. So for me, those are my thoughts regarding the state where we are right now when it comes to issues, peace, and the different actors that we have.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lasho. And I wanted to pass the mic back again this way to Moni. We have mentioned here that there are different actors in, peace building and peace enhancement. We know that conflict, we do get early signs of this conflict happening. There's some form of response that needs to be there from these different actors. And if we still have these violent acts happening, what can we say these actors need to do differently? The government, for example, what do they need to do differently? The indigenous institutions that are there, what do they, and the NGOs or the non-governmental organizations, what do they need to do differently to maintain peace?
All right, thank you. Well, like you said, the NGOs and the government need to do new things in order to, prevent conflicts. I would start with the indigenous community. The community themselves can be watchdogs. Like there was a project I was facilitating, supported by GIZ, where we are talking of, police reform, and we have the community watchdogs who come from the community themselves. They are selected by the chiefs. This group of people comprise of, the police, the women, the youth. Let me say that community leaders, categorized in this particular group of people. So these people are put there to ensure that if there is any early signs of, conflict, they're the first people to respond. They don't go immediately to the police or to the government to report, but they have to resolve it themselves as community members. If they are not able to resolve that particular, conflict, then they can be able to go now to the next level, which is the government. For the government side, I think when the government established the rule of law, then everybody can be able to abide by that. Because if there's rule of law, that means if you do commit a crime, then you have to face justice, which is you being taken to the court, and charges are pressed against you, which I bet sure that most people do not want to go to the court because of this. For the NGOs, or I could say the CSOs, there's a lot of engagement that is going with the grassroots. We are now not focusing only in town, but we are focusing at the grassroots where these conflicts are coming from. You hear most of the time when there's a conflict in a certain area, people are called from that particular area to come to town. Like, let me say now we are here, we are talking about London, we're in Nairobi, but now in that case, we go down to the grassroots. We go down to the grassroots and bring different communities who are in conflict together in one room and ask them what is happening. We have a community conversation. We tell them you're safe here. You can be able to trust us here. No one is here to harm you. So everybody comes out with their grievances and they say what's paining them. The other part says so-and-so pierced my eye, and this one says so-and-so did this to my family. And then now they're like, okay, now you've had each other's grievances. what's the way forward? There are those others who do the compensation, like my sister said here. Now ours is totally different. Sometimes you are given as a lady to that particular family in order to compensate for someone who was killed there. In other communities, you're not just literally given, but you have to be killed, you know, in order to compensate for someone who was murdered in that family. So we as CSOs, we are trying to rule out that kind of retrogressive culture that is still putting us backwards, that is still bringing conflicts into our communities. So when you bring people together like this and they understand themselves, they be like, okay, I think nimemkosea huyu, I need to ask for forgiveness, and he needs to forgive me, and we need to start afresh, just like what happened to your country in some years back, where Uhuru shook the hand of Raila Odinga, and you know things got better. So this is what we are doing as CSO at the grassroots with the community of the pastoralists to ensure that there is harmony among themselves.
Thank you so much. Maybe Emma, you can put in from the Kenyan context. What can we do differently?
Okay, and number one, I think we need to think deeper and more strategic actually on what we can do differently. This needs a lot of research and maybe many, all actors coming together to think strategically on how we can do things differently. Because if you look at how we've been resolving conflict throughout Kenya, because I've had an opportunity to work in most part of the northern Kenya, we've entirely depended on donors' support, and actually these are as limited how we can approach on conflict resolution. I think one thing that we might think critically of doing differently is embracing the indigenous conflict resolution knowledge. And when I'm saying that, we might have little knowledge on indigenous conflict resolution, but if I look entirely in this room, I find that we are of age. Most people around are from 30, majority are from, let's say, 40, moving up. Is it? Are we? Ama sisi wote ni watu 15 years and 20. Na wauliza nyinyi. So we are above 40, majority of us, indio? And in the pastoral communities, you can find that kulikuwa na ile mechanism walikuwa natumia kuresolve conflict kitambo. Zile za like mtoto wa fulani amekosea wa fulani, ama jamii fulani imekosea fulani. Ni kwa njia gani ambayo tutaanza kutatua migogoro kati ya jamii hii na jamii hiyo nyingine? Kwa sababu sisi kama wafugaji ama pastoral communities, indigenous communities, tulikuwa na hizo mechanisms za kuresolve conflict. How better are we going to document these inter-religious, inaitwa nini, intergenerational, hiyo kizungu imekuwa mingi, intergenerational knowledge, iwe documented ili iweze kutusaidia. In case like hizi zingine zote zifail, we can have something to run up to that actually can help us in resolving conflict. Number two, we still need more capacities and knowledge on conflict resolution. Because in most cases you can find that, let's say even the peace committees, the council of elders, most of them entirely depend, pengine the little knowledge they have. I think what we can do differently is bringing on board all actors, give them capacity building for those of us that have gone through the trainings and capacity building on conflict resolution. You can always come up with ways that you can bring on board all actors, especially from the grassroots level. Something else that we can do is differently. They were documented, I think there were documented resolution in the, I've mentioned the declarations and the treaties. And for this one, I can mention of Maya, Amaya declaration, there was Maikona declaration, all those the declarations, several of them. Lokiriama, those you can mention them. They had some good insight that can help us in conflict resolution. I think it's high time we could go back onto the shelves and retrieve those declarations. We look at the things that we can pick from the declaration so that we can modify them to fit the changing dynamics of conflict. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma, for that elaborate answer to Mr. Mesele. You already mentioned that civil society, for example, need to put peace, as a component. But what else can they do, and what can the government do? And you can give us maybe from the Ethiopian context that you know best. What can they do differently?
Thank you, Doctor. My friends here already said a lot of it, but what I would like to underline is all actors should work hand in hand, like not only a partner in development, but also a partner in peace, that they can share information, share conflict triggers, and then act together. Not the government alone, not our indigenous leaders only, and then also include CSOs. The peace building part is one I want to focus. If we do an activities like sports events between two communities, linking them with infrastructure and connect them on business terms, they could easily understand each other. One example is the conflict that we used to have between Boran community in southern Ethiopia and the South Omo communities, which is the Hamar communities. It is being stopped now for almost like 20 years because of the good work done by the both elders and the government. Now, no cattle raiding, no killing each other. Because we are connected through business, we are connected through other development projects. Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks a lot. And maybe before you hand over the mic, you have continuously mentioned the indigenous ways of doing things and the indigenous institutions. What are some of the elements you could say we can borrow, from those practices communities have had that maintain peace, but we have not really seen them as important and currently not using them, in maintaining peace?
Let me talk on general terms. Most of us who think we are educated, we tend to forget the role of indigenous leaders that they are playing. In Boran community in Ethiopia, we have Gada leaders. Yes, we are electing them every 8 years. They play a crucial role within that 8 years period. They build peace. They also work on rangeland management, on water management, on taking appropriate measure to the criminals. Okay, it's not only the legal structures and the government police that is taking all those corrective actions. It is these indigenous leaders that are on the forefront of correcting the wrongdoers in the community. So we can really still learn a lot from our indigenous leaders. I would like to say, let's look inward to our systems, to our traditions, to our cultures. A child is not only a child of a single father. He is a child of the community. He is a child of the whole village. So it is our children who are involving in cattle raiding or in doing something wrong to other communities or within us. So if we have the system that can correct those wrongdoers, peace will prevail.
Thank you. Ben, Lalasha, if you can also maybe, of course you've talked about maybe there are new ways of doing things, but do you have any idea in mind around what can we borrow, from the previous ways of keeping peace among communities?
Ideally, the most important thing that we need to consider when we think about how we can borrow from past practices that have worked, and I think even out here people talk of best practices and they ensure like what has worked. But of course we also have best practices when it comes to conflict resolution, when it comes to indigenous knowledge. So really we can really leverage on that, and that means also supporting initiatives. And I think it's also time we employed a decolonial mindset when it comes to conflict resolution, especially from actors, especially those government actors that we have. We have, for example, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and you see in Kenya, for instance, this is a commission that is supposed to think about issues of cohesion for communities, and really we see not a lot of efforts and resources set aside for like dealing with perennial issues that refer to the conflicts, especially that communities hold. And so it's there with commissions such as the National Cohesion that have the mandate of solving issues, that we fast track issues such as historical injustices that communities face, because these issues are systemic. And if we, I think merely the efforts that CSO do is just to kind of extinguish the fire. But there are other issues that are quite systemic that we have to think about and say, how can we put more effort from actors such as the government? How can we push or lobby for funding of initiatives through commissions such as the NCIC in Kenya, and also to ensure that these initiatives are really practical, because if we don't really have those strategies, we will be left to deal with the breadcrumbs. Well, the real issue that we are dealing with, essentially, that communities have is marginalization, poverty. We have livelihoods that are very they're not even secure in the first place. So really, when we take a holistic approach towards these issues, I think we can have some very solid strategies that we can employ when it comes to conflict resolution, and also developing grievance redress mechanisms that are rooted in indigenous knowledge, if we go by such initiatives and strategies that we need to employ.
Thank you so much, Lelasho. And I'm sure, in Kenya, for instance, we have the alternative justice systems. I don't know whether other countries have an equivalent of that. The alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, which really actually gives the communities and the indigenous ways of doing things the first opportunity to be able to solve issues at their level. And once issues are sorted at that level, the courts and the government respect that, as long as it's done, in a way that is fulfilling. Anything, Emma and Moni, if you want to add to before we... Good. No, I don't have another question, but I'll come back to you for maybe one final shot of what do you want us to include in resolution of this forum, and I'll come back to as final round once I get questions from there. Emma, please, the last one.
Okay, thank you. Let me just say something, adding on what Lelasho has mentioned. We actually have the pastoralist of the indigenous communities. This is high time we need to think of what brings us more together. Like for instance, over the weekend, I had an opportunity to travel from Isiolo through Laikipia. Then this way, I came from Isiolo through Nanyuki. Then somewhere in Makutano, I had to turn back again to, I think that is Laikipia now, from Nyeri back to Rumuruti, then on my way to Nakuru. You know, I could find people, kids and women grazing their kettles and shorts. You know, I look back at Isiolo and Samburu, my home, and I could find like a different environment in Laikipia, where like this time it is the young girls and women grazing their livestock. But in my home, you could find that it is hard to find women and girls these days grazing, because initially in our communities, who used to graze the livestock, it's women, sindio? Ama ilikuwa ni kina nani? Because me understand for the Samburu, the Turkana community, most of the people walikuwa na graze mifugo kitambo, ilikuwa ni wamama na watoto. The men and the Morans could go like root for pasture and water. Sasa wakija wakati wamepata mali kuna maji na pasture, they will now take their livestock there. And this gave me to think like this. Could we, like the indigenous people, think of what brings us together more than what separates us? Then secondly, there was a time we had the Indigenous People Food Festival. I don't know, Doctor, if you can remember, we were at Gotu, if you can remember. And that evening, we slaughtered several goats. And there was an elder, Tingoy has walked out. There was an elder, ali display tu, iyo, inaitangwa stomach, ama inaitwa nini? Hizo, matumbo. Ali display, akaanza kutuambia, hapa, ni kubaya. Hapa ni kama tutafahamiwa. Emmanuel, si ulikuwa? And it was like, hapa ni kama kuna kitu itatendeka. And that night, an old man was killed just next to Camp Simbire hapo kando. And some livestock was stolen. And this hizi matumbo in indigenous knowledge ni zile ambazo pia unaweza tumia kuresolve conflict. Kwa sababu wanaweza angalia then wanasema ni kama kutakuwa na raid, ni kama kuna mazuri, yani hizo intestines inaweza like detect anything. Supposing we go back to those roots, zile za like kama ni matumbo itatuambia ni kubaya, it's an early warning. Kama inatuambia kutanyesha, then we prepare kuweza kuwa na mazao mazuri. I think it's high time we think indigenously, tuweze kuangalia hata kama ni conflict resolution. Hatukuwa na zile za kusema ni boardroom meetings, hapana. Ilikuanga wazee, I'm using this two community kwa sababu they are people common to me. Wazee wa Samburu 10 tukutane chini ya mti fulani. Wazee wa Turkana 10 tukutane chini ya mti fulani. Na kutoka resolution ya chini ya mti unapata watu wana resolve conflict na wanarudi wanaishi kwa amani.
Thank you so much. I think we have overstepped our time, but in respect of, you seated there and listening, we'll have some 3 or 4 questions, but short ones, and also not only questions, but comments, because we might have even better experts in the room. It's just the seats were few, that's why we only had 4 people seated here. So, and I'll be quite democratic. I see the lady there. Sorry, my friend, I'll give it to the lady over there. And then the young man here, you've raised your hands up quite early, 2 men, and the lady at the end. So those 4 first. Let's, maybe this mic. I know the ones who have spotted, so don't corrupt in between here. And you can say who the question is meant for, if it is directed to any of the panelists.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Emanikor. I am from Turkana County. I'm a county attorney. I'm also a board member of Impact. Mine is just a comment and an addition to what part of the people have been talking about. Currently, we have something called the ATECER, a Leaders' Council. And I think one thing that the president did was he appointed a special envoy for peace, but mainly working within the ATECER region. That is, as we speak, we've started working on a constitution for the ATECER Leaders' Council. We are working on the rules of procedure for the ATECER Leaders' Council. And I'm thinking that's something that it's a model that in future we ought to figure out on how we can adopt it. Not just for the ATECER region, but for the entire pastoralist people. And if possible, let's think of legislating on some of these things. Because at the regional level, most government listens to law. And sometimes you find that the law puts money to ensure that things happen, including maybe a fund. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that is quite fascinating. Was there also a Kenya-Uganda agreement at one point around?
Yes, we've had quite a number of them.
Yeah.
But as somebody had said earlier on, implementation is
Was-
the problem.
Okay.
Enforcing them is usually the issue.
Thank
And
you so much.
following up.
Pass it to this gentleman who is seated over there.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. My name is Mohammed. I work for Horn of Africa Organization for Indigenous People. And then the question is directed to Dr. Hussein. Well, peace is a crucial thing that cannot get exhausted. But once disorder happens, it takes time and resource to mend it. And pastoralism are the people who are moving with the animals from one place to another to look for pasture. We don't have boundaries, whether you are from Ethiopia, whether you're from Kenya or Sudan. Now, specifically in border towns like Moyale and other border towns, we have cross-border committees, specifically to do some on mobility
Just keep
issues.
it short, please. Time is really limited. And
Now,
give it-
when it comes to peace issue for pastoralism, we need to have a policy that guides us, because a pastoralist person from maybe Kenya to look for the resource, you can move even to Ethiopia. And you know, where there is a resource, there is a conflict. So how are we going to have a policy that guides us, whether we are from, you know, a certain county or a certain country, that guides us instead of, you know, dealing with the local mechanism that cannot be maybe recognized by the other government. For example, if a Kenyan goes there to Ethiopia and then he does something and then it's not recognized. So
Thanks. I think that's point made. And in regards to that, actually, there's the transhumance protocol by the African Union. The other issue with it is adoption at the country level is the thing. Yes, please keep it short.
Yes, I'll keep it short. My name is Alexander Kisioi. I'm from a gay community from Nakuru. My question is I want to direct to my friend here. What are the traditional methods used by indigenous community to solve the conflict?
To solve what? Okay, I think a lot has been said. If there's any need for emphasis, we will do that. There's that lady at the end over there. Traditional methods for conflict resolution. I think sitting under 3 to have that conversation.
So mine is just
Yes.
an addition. Looking at Karamoja, where I come from, we had a side discussion lately during the break time, and someone was asking that I'm told that if you go to every household in Moroto, you can get gold. And I was like, that is not what you think. And so looking at those opportunities, I think to civil society organizations in the House, we would love to advocate for capacity building of our pastoral community, who are most times illiterate, by the way, on skills on how to utilize those opportunities. Like for us, we have marble, we have gold. But even an illiterate can attain a skill so that they can get a job within those specific industries. Instead of having training the youth in tailoring and others, would look within those opportunities that provide market demand for the skills that we give. Thank you.
Thank you. To keep the youth engaged in productive labor. I think we will stop it there, but I said I'll give you a round of what is the one thing. But if you have, in response to Alex's question, you can also add. But what is one thing that you will want this summit to take to maintain peace within pastoralist areas? Just one.
Okay, so for me, I think a key takeaway that could work for us is lobbying for funding of community engagement platforms for peace, for example,
Yes,
through the national government.
peace, enhancement of peace or maintaining peace requires resources.
Exactly.
And that is what we need at the local level.
Well, for me, I would love to say, you guys should be talking to the grassroots to know from them how they would want the conflicts to be resolved. Why I'm saying this, it's because most of the time, when the community hears that an organization has come to have a discussion with us, what comes into their mind is they're going to have transport refund. I am saying this from our point of view in South Sudan. This is what they have in mind. There is transport refund. They will be coming there to attend because they know they will get something for their pockets.
Yeah.
But now if we change it the other way around, you have a secret conversation with the community leaders. You tell them what you're coming to engage with them, and they themselves are the ones to engage with their community members. I think we can be able to have a better resolution of how we resolve conflicts in our communities.
Thank you. Peace building from below. Yes, Emma?
Okay. For me, I think one thing that we can do, they say that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So what we can do is that we need to come as actors in peace building and conflict resolution, convene a summit like this, where we'll come and discuss what are the issues that we have around, what are some of the resolutions that might help us in resolving conflict in our indigenous communities.
Thank you.
The last to say, it's already taken.
Yeah.
Anyway, one thing that I would like to stress is, let's uphold our indigenous leaders and indigenous knowledge, both in peace building and also in resource management. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I thank you all. And there are quite a bit of things that have been mentioned, and I cannot repeat everything that has been said, but the highlights that I got is peace needs to be maintained, because before conflict, there's peace. I'm sorry, now that you are speaking, thank you so much. Thanks a lot. I think that is an active way to already engage. So I was saying quite a number of things have been mentioned. I cannot repeat everything. Peace needs to be maintained, and we have to invest in it. So resources are needed. what keeps us together? The relationships that we already have, very strong relationships that has maintained these bonds are the building blocks that we have to look into. And we have been creating all these declarations, all these, arrangements of conflict resolutions. Let's implement them. Across the borders, we have protocols, for example, that needs to be as well made active. State is what? The duty what? The duty bearer. And they must lead the way by maintaining rule of law and acting impartially. I think that was said. So we are all in it, and therefore we have to work together. Thank you so much for your time. We are free to go, I suppose. Not yet? Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tadicha, and for the great panel. You've done justice to this subject. I want to probably just acknowledge and appreciate that your rich experiences has given us the opportunity to go deeper and even to experience what is out there in a very short time. It can go on and on, but time is short. But we really want to appreciate what you have been able to share with us. Colleagues and members in the room, can we give them a big round of applause to say thank you for your contribution and for making it possible to make this contribution. I think is our Daktari here for great work done. One of the questions that probably I had a chat with my colleague here, Christine, was how can we leverage technology to advance peace and security in our region? Because when we talk about cattle wrestling or raiding or restocking, technology can be such a transformation. And we have seen, for example, when there was banditry in some of the counties, the use of what is it called, that thing that flies? The drones. We saw even some photos, some videos of people, the bandits, trying to aim it with their, to shoot the thing in the air and maybe trying to hide themselves. So we believe there is a way technology can be transformational. Technology can also be able to contribute to what we are already doing. Technology ni jambo la muhimu. Ndio nimesema tusipong'ang'ana kujielewesha technology tutawachwa nyuma. Na tukibaki nyuma tutabakia tunakimbiza technology. So technology ni muhimu, na tumesema kwamba wale ambao nakumbuka ile issue ya wizi wa ng'ombe na mifugo na mauaji, walipotuma ile kale kitu kanatembea huko kwa hewa, uliona wengine walijaribu hata kuilenga risasi kwa sababu wameona wanamulikwa mahali hawangetarajia. Si ni kweli? Na some of those things, including where the forests are and so forth, our terrains are often also very challenging and difficult. Technology must be applied if we have also to move things in a more efficient way. But thank you. Let's put our hands again as we ask our colleagues to take their seat, and we can organize towards closing our session. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know we've done very well so far. Wacha nipige kelele kidogo na hii machine. We've done very well so far. Okay, thank you so much. I think we've done very well. Can we clap for ourselves? Can we clap for ourselves? Najua sometimes unaambiwa hata kama umefanya kazi, unafaa unarudishia hata mwili asante. Unafanya kazi, you don't have a stop moment to tell yourself thank you. We are always busy. Today we've done justice to the program. I know we have just surpassed with a couple of minutes. But I think we've done very well. The last part of our program is just but a recap, just to reflect on what really stood out in the course of the day. And I know if I ask each one of us, we'll have a story to tell in terms of what you have learned, how you've interacted with the day, what you feel about the day. Everybody will have their own story. But there will be a moment tomorrow probably to be able to do that. Lakini ningependa pengine kabla sijapeana a brief summary, to hear from your side, nani angependa kuniambia ni nini imemfurahisha kwa moyo wake sana leo na amejifunza nini? I'll only give around maybe 3 people to speak, and only if you can keep the 1 minute that I'm going to give you. Wacha nianze na madam hapa. Na sitaki wale wameongea, nataka wale hawajaongea. So kama umeongea usiinue mkono. Wale hawajaongea. Okay, madam hapo ulikuwa umeongea? So utapata simama na yule madam pale. Simama. Nataka wale hawajaongea. Wewe mzee umeongea? Haya, wacha tukupatie nafasi utasimama. I like because now I can see more hands. So madam utasimama. I want a gentleman from this side. Wazee hamjasikia chochote? Ama hiyo ilieleweka zaidi. Madam utasimama. Any gentleman from here? Yes, gentleman there in purple. So I will want a mic, please. Nataka uniambie kwa kifupi tu wewe ni nini kimekufurahisha na ni nini ambacho ama ni nini umejifunza kwa kifupi sana, na nikikukata utanisamehe kwa sababu naenda na masaa. Yes madam.
Jambo wote.
Hatujambo.
Jina langu naitwa Margaret Seketwan. Nimetoka Kajiado, boda ya Kenya na Tanzania, mahali mlikuwa mnaenda Loliondo. Nimetoka chini ya hiyo mlima. Mimi kwangu nimefurahia sana kwa sababu nimepata masomo ambayo sijaipata. Kwanza usalama ya ufugaji. Mimi ni mfugaji, mimi ni patrolist ya kuhama. Hata saa hii niko kwa boma ambaye sina hata ng'ombe, sina mbuzi, wamehama kilomita 100. Saa hii ni mimi tu naangalia watoto, wajukuu, tuko na mzee hapo, vijana ndio wamehamisha ng'ombe na mbuzi. Kwa hivyo hii usalama ambaye nimekuja kusikia hapa, nataka iende mashinani. Ianzie mashinani. Asa sisi watu tuko na mtu ambaye anatusumbuaga, sijui kama mnasikiaga kwa ma TV, anaitwa Lorgali. Saa hii nikiwa hapa niko na wasiwasi sana kwa sababu ya huyo kijana anaitwa Lorgali. Ananyemelea mashosho, ananyemelea watoto wadogo. Saa hii ananyemelea mpaka vijana wadogo. Kwa hivyo naomba hii masomo ianzie mashinani. Na ninaomba mpaka ufikishe serikali watutafutie huyo mtu anatusumbua, tukihama tunahama na wasiwasi.
Asante sana. Hiyo kesa anazungumzia is an important issue that involves a man that has been raping and abusing, women and children, and she's talked about the importance of security, and as a pastoralist, she had the livestock have had to be moved in a different location for pasture. But thank you. And this is the power of coming together and participating in this summit. Si ni kweli? Ameanza kusema ni vipi tutapeleka hii masomo mashinani. Sio kuja kusikiliza tu na tunasema ilikuwa mzuri. Already how do we connect it to the grassroots and our life experience huko kwa ground? Twende kwa madam.
Kwa majina naitwa Damaris Kawap kutoka Marsabit County. Nimeshukuru sana Impact kwa kutualika kwa hii mkutano, na pia leo nimejifunza, nimekumbuka nashukuru sana Kabale venye ametambua wanawake kwa any leadership, sana sana kwa elders, kwa sababu mara mingi sisi wanawake tunawekwa nje kwa sababu hatutakani tufanye any decision. Inabidi tutumie nguvu ili tufikie hapo tuweze kuokoa wanawake wenzetu. Mimi nashukuru sana, na pia huko kwetu tuko na mambo na registration of land, na saa hii hivi sisi communities ya hiyo area tumeanza kufurugana kwa sababu kila mtu anataka huyo mpaka. So mimi nikirudi nyumbani ninaenda nihamasisha wale wengine ile mafunzo yote tumepata hapa na process ile tutafanya ili tuweze kuregister land yetu. Kwa sababu kuna investors wenye already wamekuja huko, na sasa sisi tunahofia land yetu tusinyang'anywe.
Asante sana. Na bado tuna sessions zingine za investment zinakuja kesho. Bado hujamaliza kusoma. Tunaendelea. Thank you very much. Wanaume msijali, najua mko. Tunakuja.
Kwa majina naitwa Marian Dausian. I'm from Baringo, Ilchamus community, the small community of Maa. So ilangu tu ni kusema nimefurahishwa sana na mpangilio vile imepangwa na kuletwa sisi wamama, vijana na wazee ya mashinani huko ili tuweze kujifunza mengi. Nimejua ya kwamba sisi kama jamii ya asilia tumeshajua shida zetu, tumesha identify. So na tumeshajua tumetoka wapi, tuko wapi na tuko na shida gani. Ni mahali tu ambayo imebakia ni kuhimiza serikali wa implement ile issues ambayo tunazungumzia hapa. Na pia wale ambao wanang'ang'ana kututafutia resources, mtafute resources ya kutosha ndio tuweze kwenda mashinani huko na kuweza kufunza wengine. Kwa sababu sisi already we are another parliament. Sisi tuko na Kenya parliament, lakini sasa already tuko na Indigenous Pastoralist Parliament ambayo itaendelea na kuendelea kuongelea issues yetu. Mahali mimi nilikuwa naongelea na kusema sisi tayari hatuwezi kungojea serikali watuamulie kenye tunataka. Sisi wenyewe ndio tunaamuka, tunasema kenye serikali wangetufanyia. Kwa hivyo sisi tukasema tukiwa indigenous community mahali pote tulipo ili tuweze kujisaidia wenyewe na kutoa sheria yetu.
Asante sana madam. Twende kwa mzee pale. Patia huyu mzee hapa ameketi kwanza, ndio alikuwa before pale nyuma.
Amjambo.
Hatujambo.
Kwa majina naitwa Sami Lapalat kutoka Marsabit County. Nafurahi kuona kuna jamii Kenya hii sijaona, na leo nimeona watu wanatoka West Pokot.
Karibu na hiyo mic tukusikie kwa.
Nimeona watu wanatoka West Pokot. Nimeona watu wa Jamus. Nasikia ni part of my community. Alafu pia Waganda nimeona, lakini sijaona wanaume. Nimeona akina mama. Wakati mwingine wako. Oh, sawa. Sasa ile masikitiko watu wale watu wa Tanzania, ile msee wa Tanzania. Tushukuru sana serikali ya Kenya. Tuko na uhuru ya kwamba ametambua ardhi yetu, lakini pengine some counties kidogo wamefinya jamii. Counties zingine wameamua kwa niaba county hatuna sauti sana kama jamii. Kama kwetu Marsabit iko shida kidogo tu. Ile njia ya jamii ilikuwa wanataka kwenda naambiwa na serikali ya county hapana. Kwa hivyo kidogo iko na maneno. Kwa hivyo ndugu, ile nasikitika watu wa Tanzania. Poleni sana. Nafikiri ile jopo ambayo mlipropose itafanya kazi. Asanteni.
Asante. Ni changamoto kwetu wote kuhakikisha kwamba tunaona namna ya kusaidia na kupanua mawazo ya mbinu za kusaidiana. So twende kwa mzee pale.
Hamjambo tena. Kwa majina naitwa Dambala Bunaya kutoka Marsabit County, kutoka Northern Constituency. Kwangu kwanza shukrani kwa Mwenyezi Mungu kwa tufikisha sisi sote pamoja siku ya leo mpaka tufikisha wakati saa hii. Ya kwanza narudisha shukrani tena kwa parent team kwa kuleta hizi watu pamoja. Sababu unajua binadamu wakikuja pamoja ndio watakuja kujuana, hata pengine hali pengine ule rafiki zake ama wenzake wanaishi ndani. Na leo tumejifunza mambo mengi. Ingawa hata pengine tulikuja wa leo tumefunza. Walimu wale walikuwa wanakaa mbele zetu. Wenyewe wamesema mambo. Lakini kila kitu ni kitendo ndio inaleta usalama zaidi. Kama kuna matendo una kila kitu unaongea huwezi kuwa. Kwa hivyo walimu wamesema kila kitu mzuri, mambo ya land regulation, mambo management wamesema, mambo ya peace wamesema. Hizi zote sisi kama wafugaji tukisimama pamoja ndio inakuwa inashika kila kitu. Kwa hivyo sisi sote tushike mkono, tuone pali gani iko imebaki nyuma kati yetu, tuseme. Ya pili, mambo ya peace. Sisi tumepitia mambo mingi ndani. Mimi mwenyewe mambo ya declaration ile Maikona mkilisema kama ni story hata naweza kupigia nyinyi kesho. Kwa hivyo nitawapigia mambo mingi.
Asante sana. Story tuwekee ya kesho. Sasa tupatie mzee mwingine pale.
Mimi nataka kwanza watu wa kamera waniangalie mzuri kabisa. Kitu ya kwanza mimi nashukuru idara ya Impact. Wametusaidia sana, wametufikisha kwa hii program. Alafu katika hii program ile kitu imenifurahisha mambo ya land. Kwanza nimesahau my name is Hussein. Natoka Isiolo County. Ambaye juzi Isaka Nati community accommodated 60 within 60% of the community land. Uzuri tena tulikuwa na ile Madam Kabale. Zamani tumeandika madocument manini, kupata ilikuwa shida. Hata Sahili alikuwa anataka kupita hapa, nilikuwa nataka kupata pale, lakini nimeshukuru Impact sana kwa kuleta kwa hii program tupate hii mambo ya land issue. Na nimeona hata jamaa ya registrar ya wapi ya Turkana ya Isiolo yetu hajakuja, lakini atajua ni kwa nini. Kesho tutaongea wakati mwingine, madam utupangie program, kwa sababu we are the community representative. Tuko na maishu mingi. Alafu ya misho kuna madam ya peace building and conflict resolution from Isiolo. Mambo story mingi tutakaa naye chini. Aondoe tu mkono nimuone. Alikuwa na mastori mingi sana. Madam ile peace building alikuwa wapi? Ile madam ya peace building ako chai, nitampata kwa tea. Story ni mingi. Tutaongea. Watu wa kamera naye washike mzuri.
Asante, umesikika vizuri kabisa. Wacha tupatie madam pale, alikuwa ndio wetu wa mwisho. Alafu tutapata nafasi kesho asubuhi bado ya kufanya recap. So kwa leo naona mikono inachomoka sehemu mbalimbali, lakini najua pia muda umetupa mkono. Yes.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Jane Meshami kutoka Laikipia, na mimi kwangu nimefurahishwa na ile jambo ambayo imesemekana, ile panel ambayo tutatengeneza ya kuinua hii sauti yetu tukiwa pamoja. Ingine mimi nimeshangaa ati kuna maybe kuna jamii ama kuna groups, kwa sababu sisi tumeregister groups zetu kama community lands. So sisi tuko na sauti na sisi tunachaguliwa na kulingana na our NGOs. Sisi tumepata nguvu kwa sababu ya hawa kutuelimisha na kutufanya sisi tuwe na sauti na kuempower women wawe na sauti ya kuongea na kujitetea, washaguliwe hata kwa hizo community land. Kwa hivyo mimi ninafurahia tukiwa hapa na ninapongeza Impact kwa sababu ni wao ndio walitufanya tuwe kwa hii kikao, tuelimisha na sisi tupate kitu ambaye tunaweza kujifunia ni yetu. Asante.
Thank you very much. Pigieni makofi kwa hao wote ambao wametupatia their input. Najua maoni yako yamewakilishwa kupitia hawa, na kama hayajawakilishwa tutapata nafasi kesho pia ya kuzungumzia. Just to summarize a few points ambayo tumesikia kwa siku ya leo, and in compliment hiyo hao wamesema. Jambo la kimsingi ni maneno ya land rights. Tulisema bila haki ya ardhi ni ngumu kufanya pastoralism. Ni ngumu kufanya rangelands management. Kufanya management, kutunza, kukuza na kuangalia hadi inavyoenda kule na kuweza kupata ile faida tunatarajia, bila haki ya ardhi itakuwa ngumu. Na ili kupata haki ya ardhi tunafaa kufanya nini? Tupate ile inaitwa legal recognition of the tenure rights ya community. Na hiyo legal recognition inamaanisha kama ni hapa Kenya tuende kwa hiyo community land registration na tuweze kuachieve. Kama ni hizo nchi zingine pengine mna ile certificates of customary occupancy ama inaitwa nini, pia muweze kupata rights zenu. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu kujua kwamba legal recognition, ile rights ambazo hakuna ule anafaa kukunyang'anya. Si kwamba uko naye leo kesho mwingine anakuambia sogea pale fanya hivi fanya hivi. Tumesema land rights is core, is a pillar to ensuring that we have sustainable pastoralism and rangelands can be managed in a sustainable way that benefits the communities. Number 2, tumezungumzia tena kuhusu maneno ya policies and laws as well as regulations. Na nakumbuka our CEO wa NLC alizungumza asubuhi akasema kuna ile mikakati ya ku review the Land Act ya 2016 ama regulation ambazo zinahusiana na hiyo act. Na tukajiuliza, je, ni nini kabisa kinatakana kubadilishwa pale? Hatuna uhakika kamili na sina uwezo wa kuwaelezea ni nini, lakini lazima tujiulize, particularly for those pastoralists tumetoka Kenya, ni nini kabisa kinafaa kubadilishwa, itutasaidika namna gani, italeta changamoto ama itatilia nguvu uwezekano kwamba rights zetu zitakuwa secured in terms of land rights. Na tunasema pia jambo la kimsingi tukisikiliza for example the experiences we had from Ethiopia to South Sudan, ambao wako na pia wamesema wako na ile constitution ambayo ina provide their rights but they are still working on the policy. Tukasema kwamba policies and regulations alone bila political goodwill haisaidii sana. Ni muhimu kuwa na sheria lakini sheria ambazo hazina ile hamasisho ama motivation ambayo inatoka kwa serikali ili kusababisha zifanyike, ama zile county government. Ukikuta county government imezembea, if I could use that term, hakuna kitu kitasogea, kwa sababu pia wana nafasi ya kuchangia. Kama ni serikali kuu anaye imezembea, hakuna kile kitafanyika. So sheria ni muhimu kwa sababu inatupatia uwezo wa kusema kwamba tumejikita pale, ama we have anchored our advocacy and pursuit of our rights, but it needs to be accompanied by the political goodwill to make that happen. Tukasema pia it's important to recognize the traditional authorities, particularly the indigenous women and men or elders, who also form a very critical part in the governance of land and natural resources. Tumezungumzia wazee wanasaidia sio kwa upande tu ya kuresolve hata conflict, but hata zile management za resources kama maji, pasture ama malisho na mambo mengine, wanachangia pakubwa, na pia they are custodians of culture and tradition. Tunapozungumzia indigenous communities, tunapozungumzia pastoralists, ni kwamba kuna yale ambayo yanatuweka pamoja, na mara mingi ni our ways of life, our culture, our traditions, our values, ambao ukijiuliza who are the custodians, they may not be the young generation, it's the older generation that passes that information and knowledge to the younger generation. Na ikikuja kwa governance of land, where the boundaries were and where they are supposed to be, whether administratively so by countries or otherwise by communities and ethnic groups, hawa wanaweza kuwa mchango mkubwa sana kwa kuweza kuaddress those related issues. In addition to those, as structures for governance of land na natural resources, ni muhimu pia kutambua kwamba kwa constitution ama zile sheria zilimewekwa zimetutengenezea zile committees, kama ni hizo community land community land management committees, ama zile committees zingine zimetajwa from Ethiopia, kuna wale wametaja zile za huko kama ni Uganda ama ni wapi. Tumesema pia ni muhimu kwa sababu zimewekwa pale, na wale wamewekwa pale wanafaa kuwa wamechaguliwa, na iko viongozi kadhaa hapa wamepata nafasi ya kuongea who sit in those management committees. Why they are critical is because they have a responsibility, kulingana na sheria wamepewa nguvu kufanya maamuzi kwa niaba ya jamii, and they cannot take that role as a joke, because wakitumia vibaya inaweza ni kama kupeleka jamii sokoni kama ng'ombe uende uuze, si ni kweli? Na when tutaongea kesho maneno ya investment and some of the challenges that communities are facing, those structures are powerful, and being powerful, it means you have to bear the responsibility on the behalf of the community. Unaekelea jamii mzima kwa mabega yenu, kama hizo CLMCs ama committees ambazo zimekuwa established to be able to govern and support those communities to thrive, and the pastoralism work to thrive in those areas. Na kwa kusema kwamba mnahitajika na mna majukumu, inamaanisha kwamba mnahitaji pia sometimes capacity strengthening, kwa sababu pekine unakuta wale wamekuwa elected huko kwa hizo committees hawajawahi kuwa na uzoefu wa kufanya uongozi, si ni kweli? Hata sikisimama hapa mbeleni si kwa sababu nimeamuka tu nikakuja hapa, pekine na uzoefu wa kufanya jambo fulani. Kuna wale ambao wamepewa majukumu because umeonyesha una bidii, unaweza kuwa kiongozi. So mashirika mbalimbali lazima tuone ni vipi tutawatia nguvu kwa kuwapatia zile training on leadership, management, governance, all those that requires to empower them, both men and women. And women must take their space, as we have already been told, kwa sababu hakuna ule atakuletea kuambia sasa sogea hapa tukucreate hiyo space. Women who have demonstrated in this meeting that indeed you are powerful, you are equal to the task, both in terms of pastoralism development, rangeland management, and leadership more broadly. So women, you've done great, and I think you are also going places. Let's keep up the positive spirit. Now, another thing that we have learned, na ni jambo la kimsingi sana ya sisi kufuatilia, ni kwamba peace building and peace development ama peace transformation and conflict transformation and peace building is fundamental for our coexistence. Tukikosa hiyo peace, tukikosa amani, ni kama hatuna chochote. Ni kweli? Ukikosa amani una chochote kweli? People from South Sudan will tell us what it means to be in an environment where there is no peace. I know here there are communities ambazo tumetaja counties kadhaa ambazo tumekuaga na issues mara kwa mara za mauaji, watu wamehama, wameondoka. When you don't have peace ama hatuna peace, hatuna chochote. Hautakuwa na ile unasema uko nayo. And that's why we always say peace is the fundamental part of our society that we must guard and protect. Lakini peace haimaanishi kwamba hakuna migogoro, si ni kweli? So, for us to be able to experience and enjoy peace, it means we must also be able to be able to resolve our disputes and conflict in a more transformational way that leaves our communities intact and resilient. Si ni kweli? Kwa hivyo our management ability to resolve disputes and conflicts that always come, hata kwa boma, kuna boma ambaye haina dispute, nasemaga labda ukisema kwako hakuna, labda mnajifanya. Si kweli? Kwa hivyo ni lazima tuone vile tutaweza kuaddress some of those challenges. Tumeongea maneno ya degradation and ecosystems restorations. I want to thank the experts. Tumetusaidia kufungua macho. Tunahitaji a whole lesson, as someone talked about, how do we really manage and ensure sustainability of our rangelands in a way that we're talking about restoration. I know Kenya as a country, tuko na ile target ya how many millions ama ni billions of trees? Ni 20 ama ngapi? 15 billion trees. Where exactly are the 15 billion trees supposed to be planted? Do you know where they're supposed to be planted? Unajua mali inafaa kupandwa hizo miti bilioni 15? Kwa nini haujui? Anyway, hiyo ni swali gumu kidogo. Hata mimi mwenyewe sina ufahamu kamili, lakini nimeuliza kwa sababu when we talk about national effort, ile kidogo kidogo watu tunafanya, tunasema ina complement what the government is doing. And it's also to advance our rights and opportunities within those ecosystems. Na ile kazi mnafanya, kazi ni kazi nzuri. So tunajiuliza, je, how do we restore and what is degrading our land? And we talked about issues of pressure on land, both by human activities, human including all of us. Si ni kweli? Sio external, kuna ile external na kuna ile tunafanya wenyewe. So what are some of the best approaches and practices that will help us ensure that we don't degrade more? You know, we know our livestock are good, but kama tutazitumia vizuri, hatutaweza kuzipangilia vizuri, itamaliza pia ile malisho na bado zitakufa njaa. Si ni kweli? Lakini tukiwa na utaratibu mzuri, tutalisha namna gani? Tufuatilie zile mbinu tulielezewa hapa na kina experts wa hizo restoration and the governance of those rangelands, we can improve our livelihoods. And that becomes important. So we don't just do restoration for the sake of seeing the beauty of our land. It's because it's foundational for our livelihood and sustenance as a people. And therefore that is equally very important. We know there are other pressures, pressure ambayo inakuja na climate change. Kuna change mingi zinafanyika kwa environment. But we must also find ways of ensuring that we reduce or minimize the effect or the impact of climate change on those ecosystems through restoration, na tumepewa hizo mbinu mbalimbali. Now, najua kuna mengi naweza zungumzia, lakini najua kuna muda pia umekwenda. Tulizungumzia maneno ya hiyo indigenous knowledge ambayo pia ni muhimu kwa kuensure kwamba the systems are able to thrive na kubenefit from the work that the indigenous people know on how we can conserve our environment, how we can be able to protect our land, and how the resources can be shared equitably and in a gender responsive way. Ya, tulizungumzia kidogo kuhusu maneno ya technology ambayo singependa kuzungumza sana. Alternative dispute resolution nimezungumzia, and kwamba peace building is core to ensuring that we are able to deliver better together. As I said, tomorrow bado tukuna sessions zingine. Kunaweza kuwa na maswali, how do we go about investment, inamaanisha nini kwa pastoralism, access to financing and many other related issues. Tutapata nafasi ya kuzungumzia hayo kesho. So ladies and gentlemen, those are just summaries of what we have discussed, in addition to what our other members were able to share at plenary. And that brings us to the end of our day today. So tunaweza piga makofi ya kujiambia asante kwa kazi nzuri. Thank you very much. I would like to make an administrative announcement. Kwa upande wa wale wamepoteza, kuna mtu amepoteza simu, sijui kama ameshaipata. Kama mtu amepoteza simu, anaweza ona our colleague from Impact. Kuna mtu alipoteza simu, sijui kama ilipatikana, kuna simu niliambiwa ilipatikana somewhere. So please, unaweza consult ile desk pale nyuma for support. Sijajua kama kuna any further announcement from our Impact colleagues. I was informed there was some administrative announcement kuhusu some logistics on maneno za dinner or something. So if there is anybody who is listening at me, please can you come and provide the statement Kama hakuna tutatafutana hapo nje baadaye. So kindly, if you have any question, tafuta impact staff, watakupatia nafasi ya kusaidia. Kama utawakosa, utanitafuta na mimi nitakuelekeza. Sawa? Hata Bwana Tingoi yako hapa, kwa hivyo anaweza akasimama tu. Kama una shida unaweza pia ukamuona, anaweza akakuelekeza, just to ensure that you can be able to get the support that you need. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to thank you for your patience. Na kama darasa na mimi mwalimu, nafurahia ukiona wanafunzi wameuliza maswali, wanafunzi wako makini kuchangia, hakuna mwanafunzi analala, that keeps the teacher awake na motivated. But I think importantly is what have you taken home from the day to day. Si ni kweli? Ile unajiulizaga ilikuwa muhimu kwangu kukaa hiyo siku mzima hapo? If the answer is yes, it is also yes for me. Otherwise, thank you very much. Let me wish you a good day. Tomorrow tunaanza program yetu saa 3 kamili. Please maintain time and keep time. Hatutaweza kupoteza muda kesho kwa sababu tutakuwa na nafasi nzuri ya kufanya mjadala na kutake some of the points and questions forward kwa tomorrow's program. Otherwise, mkuwe na jioni njema na Mungu awabariki. Weka ngoma DJ.
Medal